Welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat. We are a pro wrestling podcast. This is huge. This is our 30th episode, guys. Thank you for sticking around with us this long. I promise you this is a big show. And for a big show, I brought in a big co-host. He's one of my best friends in the world. He throws the nastiest lariat in the world next to Stan Hansen. Here he is, coming straight to you from the Hall of Hound, the palatial Hall of Hound in New Jersey. Jimmy, Hound, the Fezzik to my Wesley, if you will.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
How you doing over there, buddy?
I'm doing well. Just getting attacked by my cat as we speak.
So, perfect. Cat's wrestling you. That's where it is.
Yes, she is.
As always, I am stevezapf. We will be talking wrestling. First things first, we're going to bring up our nonprofit organization, Tap Cancer Out. Huge organization, helps out with a lot of places. Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins. That's always the long one. CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descendants, and Tom Coughlin's J-Fund. Guys, just so you know, Showtime will still be doing our bonus episodes this week, but Hound has been nice enough to fill in, and he is now officially a member of the Legion of... He's one of the hosting members of the Legion of Lariat. He will be here with us on a more regular basis, I promise. You will learn to love him or hate him as much as I do.
Most likely, yes. But we've also been friends for going on an actual lifetime at this point, so I think we've reached a realm of comfortable hatred.
We definitely have. It's like love and hate at the same time. It's very similar to me and Showtime at this point.
Yes. I can't stand you, but nobody else is allowed to insult you. Only me.
Yeah, that's how it is. All right, Hound, let's talk about some wrestling here. This past Sunday on NXT No Mercy, we officially got the Julia debut. There's a lot to talk about this young lady. I think this is going to be huge. This is a big international star coming out of, I believe, Stardom and Marigold. A lot of the Japanese promotions, she was kind of the thing over there. She was basically female Okada at this point. So.
She's a fantastic worker. You know, I didn't know much about her, and then I started hearing Julia's coming to WWE, and I was like, well, who is this Julia we speak of? And I started looking into her stuff, and solid worker. And I enjoy that she's not a spot monkey. She's telling a story, and I can get behind that.
Our good friend Uncle Dave Meltzer recently said that she might have to tone down her style a bit for WWE because she's a bit hard hitting. I think that's a bunch of crap. There are a good amount of hard hitting people in WWE that I don't see that being an issue. I'm always a big believer that, especially if you're a real worker, if it draws money, it doesn't matter about that. Like, you're going to go in there snug.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but if I was competing on the female side of things with some of the genetic freaks that are out there, I mean, as much as I wasn't a fan of Nia Jax for a long time and thought she was super dangerous, she has improved immensely. If you go in there and you're anything but snug, you're not going to look like you belong. Jade Cargill isn't, while maybe not the best in-ring worker presently, she has all the tools and she's a genetic freak. Bianca Belair is out of this world. Charlotte Flair, when she's there, you've got to be able to hold your own. And sometimes Christ, how could I forget about Rhea Ripley? If you don't lay something in there and, like what did Regal say? I'll hit you hard, but in safe places. If you don't do that, it's not going to work. Especially, you're not going to be able to compete. And everybody we named right there, that's going to be the perennial title contenders.
Exactly. And I think her laying it in a little bit snug might actually set her apart from the pack, because there's not, outside of the people that you just named, that handful, there's not a lot of hard hitting like female workers anymore. They kind of there's a lot of people trying to do finesse, and I think this will set her apart and set her in that grouping of the Rheas, the Biancas, the Jades, the Charlottes, the Beckys.
Yeah, and forgive me for not mentioning Becky Lynch, but she's also been off screen for a little bit. You know, everybody has a little bit of recency bias when in virtually everything they do. But yeah, everyone you're talking about there, with the exception of Jade Cargill and I believe Nia presently, you're talking about future undoubtable Hall of Famers. Not saying that Jade and Nia can't get to that point, just right now they're not quite at that echelon. And Julia's got everything. She's got the look, she's got the ability, and you know me, man. You know me a long time. I am a big fan of hit the person hard, as long as you're not trying to hurt them.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's safe, then I don't see any issue with it at that point. And she's young. She's just about to hit kind of the stride of female wrestling. So she was born in '94. That puts her at she's literally 30 years old. She's right at the stride. So
Yes.
she kind of comes in at a really good point where, like, I liken her with Roxanne is kind of how I've been making the point about, like, Jacob Fatu with Braun Breaker. I think that's that age gap. Like, okay, what you don't know, I can teach you, and you can teach me how to work this style that you've really become accustomed to. So I think that's really good. I'm gonna skip on the show doc a little bit. It looks like Triple H is predicting that Raw, when it moves to Netflix, will be a bit edgier. I think we all kind of saw that coming, but also let's not forget it's still WWE. At the end of the day, they can't, like, anyone who thinks that when they say edgier that it's going to turn into, I hate to say it like this, but AEW, where they're going to drop curses. I don't see that happening. That's not going to be a thing. I think they're just going to make sure they don't insult our intelligence.
I believe you're right, but let's think about even some of Pat McAfee on commentary, who is one of my favorite humans ever. Once in a blue moon, a curse word flies out, and at that moment, that is the cherry on the sundae. That is the final missing ingredient. It's knowing when to use it. Yes, getting a wrestler to have some color in the ring is sometimes the thing that tells a story, but I'm sorry, it doesn't need to happen every third match.
It doesn't need to happen all the time. And that's the thing is, I think, yes, it will get a little edgier, but I don't think it's going to get, like, at the end of the day, WWE is still going to be geared towards children for a large part of it. Like, kids buy action figures. Well, adults buy kids action figures.
Yes.
I buy action figures.
I was going to say, just adjust your camera a little bit. But
sorry.
I'm in the same boat with you, man. And, you know, I can't remember where I heard this, and I couldn't have agreed more. And it might have been Edge talking about it, or it might have just been somebody talking about Edge when they make this move. I understand the fear of, oh my gosh, every week's going to be the celebration of sex like they did with that, and everything's going to be right. No, it's not. It's going to be PG-13. Maybe once a month, you're going to have somebody drop, you know, it's going to say the S word, and everybody's going, oh my goodness. And it'll be timed well. I think you'll hear a little bit more of, you know, somebody calling somebody a bitch. I think you'll hear the word ass used a bit more than it is. But other than that, I mean, we're not going to have an F-bomb every 2 minutes. We're not going to suddenly head down the rabbit hole of people calling each other racial slurs. There's nothing to worry about with that. It's not going to get itself canceled.
Exactly. I don't see them. You don't take something that's worth $9 billion.
Yeah, it's absurd.
On its own. Not worth $9 billion on its own without being part of TKO. And all of a sudden, like, make it less mainstream by just dirtying it up with curses and an abundance of blood and violence. I think they're going to keep going down the road that they're already going down, where the product has become a lot more adult already. They've made it where don't insult everyone's intelligence with things, where they don't, you can watch it and be like, okay, I'm a grown man and I get this. And I get this as a grown man, but also some of the stuff my 10-year-old might not always get. So I have to explain what's going on here and there. And I think that's the route that they're going on, where for the most part, the big storylines, it's easy to follow. But maybe some of these other things, some of the stuff with the White Six, I might have to explain that. Like, hey, they're not really monsters. They're, they're broken. We have to talk about it that way. So, like I said, I think it's still gonna be great. I think SmackDown's gonna go to USA. That gets them off of that Fox pillowcasing that they're on, where they're not allowed to do anything on Fox. And I think Raw going to Netflix is going to be good. I think, what is it? Starting in January, NXT goes to CW, which I think that's really good for them, being on a weekly broadcast television network like that. That's going to be huge.
It is the CW. I don't know why I kept saying they're going to the WB in my head, and I don't even know if that's a thing anymore.
It's not. It's because the CW used to be the WB.
There we go. Okay. So now I'm showing my age at this point, because I am kind of the elder statesman of our group, but
so some of our listeners might not be old enough to get that reference. they don't remember the Looney Tunes dancing frog.
Oh my gosh, hello my baby, hello my honey. Yeah, I miss those days. And on a completely unrelated topic, and I kind of want to give this to you for you to think on for a little bit. And with the changes that are happening, I'm hoping they can do something, because right now the two most important things in the company aren't the titles. It's a necklace and a bracelet. So I'm hoping that I'm going to give you that to think on, because you think about this a bit more than I do. I'm usually yelling at my employees throughout the day about, clock in, finish your job, all that's, my adult children. But it's interesting with all the changes going on. I wonder if that is kind of a portent of what's to come.
So
I'm okay with it.
I listened to an interview around SummerSlam. It was a replay interview on Busted Open with Jey Uso, and they were talking to him about it. And he said a lot of what they did, honestly, a lot of what they did during pandemic is really, really influencing what they are doing now. Because so when you have 15, 20,000 people in a building and you hit a cool move, like, you get the roar of the crowd and it's great and everything is awesome. But he's like, there was no one in the building. So we had to do character work. And that was why all of their stuff kind of evolved. And that's kind of where the Bloodline really evolved from. And even the Judgment Day now, and a lot of these storylines that we're getting, they all kind of evolved from that pandemic WWE, where it, the Thunderdome and whatnot. Welcome to the Thunderdome.
And I love that it's Jey Uso talking about the character work when he's the one who breaks character the most often.
Yeet, yeet.
Yeet indeed, sir.
All right. One last thing for wrestling news around the world. Odyssey Jones was not just taken off of the WWE roster page. It's being reported that he's been released from the WWE. There's not a lot going on with as far as information goes, and we are obviously not reporters, so we do not report on things that we do not know. But the things that I've seen dwell around domestic violence. There's been no arrests made. There are no charges being pressed currently. This seems very much to me, again, this is WWE doing their political thing where, hey, until we know exactly what this is, we're going to kind of take our hands off of you for right now.
Well, think about the foxhole they just had to crawl out of. The last thing they can have after everything that was going on with, essentially wrestling's Voldemort at this point, he who shall not be named. The last thing you can have right now is
draw me money.
Hey, pal. But the last thing they can have is more bad press, especially, and again, we don't know anything, innocent till proven guilty, and I believe that wholeheartedly. But the last thing they need is somebody else on there who has something atrocious come out, especially when they are riding such a high. I've heard you guys say it on the podcast and everything else, and I've heard other people say it, and I remember even when I was younger, it wasn't so much cool to be a wrestling fan, but it's like cool to be a wrestling fan again now.
It's back to being cool again. Like
Yeah.
and even if people say it's not, it's cool to be a wrestling fan again. Listen, again, I'm gonna say this again. Without TKO, the WWE is worth $9.5 billion with a B dollars. You know what that means? That means they're basically printing money every year.
Yeah, I mean that'll put a dent in your Pinto payment for sure.
That's what I'm saying. And you know what? Anyone who says that Triple H isn't doing the right thing, how many, what was it, 37, 38, 45, whatever it is, television sellouts in a row or whatever?
It was something unbelievable. I mean,
something absurd.
Well, how many times have you and I talked just in either one of us driving to work or whatever, or what have you, when we're just catching up? And I would say 80% of our conversations somehow come back to how Triple H has the single greatest mind for the business right now. And I mean, I almost wish he could puppet master everything, because I want every promotion out there to find its lane and be successful. No one's competing with the WWE, but everybody can have a giant fight for number 2. And that number 2 is so far distance from number 1 that you're never gonna assail Olympus. So, but if he, or just at least follow his blueprint. My God, there's a lot of shameless gimmick stealing. Just steal it.
Yeah, wrestling is stealing.
Yeah,
steal your move. Steal your move.
Yes. 100%. Like Cody said, if I've wrestled you more than 5 times, I have rights to steal your move.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he does the Cody cutter. Otherwise, the Oz cutter.
Who was it that we were talking about? Oh, it's Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, if he has been beaten by you, specifically in WrestleMania, but if he has lost you at any point, he now has rights to your move.
Yes, I agree. And even back when I was competing, granted, I mean, I'm a big dude, so I've lost some people flying off the top rope, and you really didn't want me flying through the air. I would have gracefully landed like a plane crash.
The thought of that is why I never wanted to work you.
You never wanted to work me because when you wanted to get into the business, I clotheslined you in my pool.
Yeah, and then I ended up in the 9-foot section of the pool somehow. I don't know how it happened. He hit his lariat. Again, lariat. Oh my God.
Lariat, indeed. My goodness, man. This is...
All right, so moving on from around the wrestling world to a much more concentrated area, this has been what we have been championing the most for wrestling, and that is total nonstop action. TNA, we say it every week. Every week, I feel like I'm the broken record, but TNA keeps putting on this really good wrestling product, and it's the easiest one to follow. So if you're not watching TNA, I don't understand why you're not watching TNA, because they put on one show a week for 2 hours, and it's a great show. And they put on a pay-per-view this past week. It was the Emergence pay-per-view. And I'll tell you what, man, they did some good work on that. We have Zachary Wentz from the Rascals wins the X Division title in a 6-man Ultimate X match. And where I'm going to give this credit to is, Hound, I know you're a little new to the show, but you still know the term. There wasn't a lot of Jamokin in this match, and I appreciate it.
Yes, I agree with you on that completely. I watched...
guys were working.
They were, and for anybody listening, I am a single father and have a full-time big boy job. So I don't always have all the time in the world, so I tend to watch a lot of recaps. But this I was very interested in, because I go back to many years ago. Steve originally turned me on to TNA, but we're talking back in the AJ Styles days. and the Samoa Joe days and the six-sided ring days. And I fell in love with the concept of the Ultimate X, and then the concept of what they call it, Option C, and
Option C, yeah.
all of that. And that match to me felt like a throwback a bit to that. I was thinking back, I was like, wow, this reminds me of when I was watching, Samoa Joe and AJ Styles and Sanjay Dutt and Amazing Red, and all those guys go in there and do stuff where I'm like, well, humans can't do that. And it was,
But it was always weird because I always feel like the TNA X division, as much as they do high flying and like they do the no limits, but it always seems to make sense to me. Like their stuff makes sense. They don't just fly for the sake of flying a lot of times. And Zachary Wentz is not a. I've trained jujitsu with Zachary. He's not a small dude. Like he's a cruiserweight technically,
yeah.
but I think he's like my height, maybe an inch tall. Like he might be a real like 6'1", 6'2" dude, and he's probably sitting on the lighter side of the 200-pound range, but he's still probably he's wearing an extra large shirt. Trust me, he's a big dude.
Yeah, he's definitely not little, and you see, and that's where a lot of comparison gets lost. Because you can put somebody in the like you yourself, Steve. You're not a little dude, but if you stand next to me, you look very little. And it's same with Showtime. He's not a little guy either, but I'm a full head above both of you. And it's all perspective. The Zachary Wentz, I was very, very impressed. I was under the impression that he had more to do with NXT, like we spoke about earlier today, and I'm glad that you told me because I was just like, well, this is not adding up to me. But again, I was very impressed with that Ultimate X match, and like you said, there was not a whole lot of young bucks in it, if you will. There was no quadruple super kick into a flip into this for no reason.
And you had Hammerstone in there, who is not a high flyer whatsoever. Hammerstone is a monster. He's a guy who went toe to toe with Jacob Fatu in power.
Yeah, and that says all you need to know because Jacob Fatu terrifies me.
Jacob Fatu terrifies everyone. Jacob Fatu terrorizes the world. That's why he wasn't allowed in Germany.
That's so crazy to me that like international shows, it's like it really plays into the whole story. Like they're not allowed to go.
Yeah, but he's actually not allowed to go. Like the thing they said about him, about Triple H having to talk to Canada, we're pretty sure that was a shoot. Like they were like, oh yeah, we had to make special arrangements for him to come into Canada. No, he actually he was not allowed to cross the border.
And the crazy thing is, I hear away from all of it, he's like Haku. He's just like the nicest human in the world. Would want to just give you a hug, but scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, but he's the scariest dude on the planet, and he's just a star. And speaking of a star that seems like it's back on the rise, Nick Nemeth retains the TNA World Title in a 60-minute Iron Man match against Josh Alexander. Hound, we talked about this a little bit. This was a hell of a match.
It was incredible, and you got to have two folks in there, true technicians, true masters of their craft, go at it. Like we spoke about a little bit earlier in the day, I kind of feel bad for Nick, Dolph, whatever you want to call him. If I feel bad that he was kind of used as enhancement talent for so long in WWE. Because, whatever it was, none of us were there. We don't know if there was politics backstage or whatever. But he was never really allowed to show what he could showcase. And if you can't go, you can't do a long-term match with Josh Alexander. That dude is a machine. And
he's absolutely a machine.
And the fact that, they went that long. And while every 60-minute Iron Man match, of course, has its lulls, you have to have your rest spots, all that other stuff, because it's an unbelievable feat of just athleticism, of endurance to go that long. Anybody listening who's never been in a ring, I challenge you to get in a ring and run the ropes 4 times and not be fully gassed. And you could be somebody who is in legitimate shape. There's a difference between shape and ring shape. And
There absolutely is.
those two put on an absolute masterclass. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for Nick Namath, because I believe that he's finally getting his due.
I agree with that. We talked about Nick Namath a lot when he first kind of came into TNA and he was doing the stuff with New Japan. I love what he's doing right now. And I love the fact that not just kind of the show off Nick Namath came out in the start of the match where they were doing some of the slow going stuff. I really love the fact that he went back to his amateur wrestling background. The fact of the matter is he's still a walk-on wrestler for Kent State, and he's in the Kent State Hall of Fame. Like, he's a Division I wrestler. Let's not doubt his skills and think that just because he's got six-pack abs and throws a great dropkick that, like, that's all he is. He's still a grinder.
One of my favorite stories about him, and you might remember this. This is back when Conor McGregor was being Conor McGregor and talking about how he would, beat up the entire WWE roster. And everybody said, we volunteered Dolph to take the place. And he's like, absolutely. Because okay, yes, Conor McGregor's a legitimate badass. Dolph would have ankle picked him and had his way with him. And he would have Khabib'd him, is what would have happened.
He would have Khabib'd him. And like, there's a couple guys in there that I could say probably would have done that to Conor. And then there's guys that...
Well, it's that, and it's to really highlight the fact that Dolph, as much as, he's a bleach blonde, good-looking dude, and he had the whole, like, sometimes things don't love you back promo, which, while it's great, it's a meme now to show, like, some weakness, but he's a legit badass.
Yeah. He definitely... he is... I love this match. This match has me stuttering because it was that good. They put on a hell of a clinic. They did everything right in this match. And at the end of it, we get coming out of that match, we get Moose and Nick Namath for the next pay-per-view, which is Victory Road. We're gonna get those two one-on-one again. This is kind of like their rubber match at this point, because they had the 6-man match that Nick Namath came out of as the champion. They had a one-on-one match that Moose won. I think this is the one where Nick wins it and solidifies himself truly, because then he'll have defeated basically the last two TNA Impact World Champions at that point. And I think that's going to be huge. But to close out the show, we get John Layfield, JBL, if you will, makes a surprise appearance after the world title match. And apparently this is something he's doing now. Apparently he showed up down in AAA. He's now kind of going around to different wrestling promotions around the world. And I don't know if he's creating his own worldwide stable, or everyone who knows anything about this is still staying pretty tight-lipped about it. But this is something JBL has some type of plan for the wrestling world right now, which that kind of excites me because I like Layfield.
This is everything we talked about when we were younger, man. How many conversations did we have in our 20s and even in 30s where we would talk about how we would come up with, oh my gosh, could you imagine if, X person wrestled Y person? Well, it'll never happen because neither promotion's going to want to do the job for the other promotion. And I hate that term forbidden door. It's always kind of made me want to scratch my own skin off a little bit because it's just so dumb. But it seems like whatever door was forbidden has been kicked open pretty well around the world at this point, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
So they took an axe to that door. That door does not exist anymore. It's like, it's a nice sounding pay-per-view, I guess, for AEW, but it's not a thing anymore. It doesn't matter.
I never made this connection until we were just talking about this now. this all happened after Vince was gone. I
Yeah.
wonder if legitimately he held that much power that it just could not be done. And
So I think so, and they've said a big part of this. If you listen to anyone, any of the other podcasts, for anyone who's been on the writing team or been any type of in the inner circle of WWE during the Vince era, which is the majority of WWE, they said like even the stuff with them going international with these pay-per-views or PLEs. I'm sorry, don't please no one sue me for that. They Vince never wanted to do an international pay-per-view because kind of for the reason that we've been seeing it now. What we just had Bash at Berlin. Bash at Berlin started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That was his issue, was he didn't want to do a pay-per-view where on the West Coast it was 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. He wanted to always make sure that he was keeping his time frame for the at the East Coast. You were starting your pay-per-view at 7 p.m. It was 4 o'clock in the West Coast, but on the East Coast, where New York was, 7 o'clock at night. And I heard that was a big part of it. And that shows you how much power in this business that man wielded, was being able to do that. And let's face it, up until what, 5-6 years ago, realistically, yeah, you could probably draw a paycheck from TNA or from Impact. But the truth is if you wanted to make money in pro wrestling, you kind of had to do it with WWE or go to Japan.
yeah, and so many people went the WWE route, but it's, there's not to be the actually guy with this, but you couldn't draw a paycheck wrestling for WWE because there was no wrestling. It was sports entertainment, and I will tell you, I will tell you this: I am so glad that's gone. While sports entertainment is an important aspect of it, I mean, hell, the cinema, as the kids call it these days, of it all, the
Those
storytelling,
kids.
that is it. But the in-ring work, the psychology of it, the simple headlock transition into a hammerlock, things like that, to tell major beats in a story inside the ring, to see that stuff back. And you can call it pro wrestling again. Well, it's always going to be sports entertainment because
That's what it is.
yeah, it's a soap opera for guys for the most part. And it's
Oh,
so very entertaining. But I'm just glad that things have changed so much, and it happened so quickly.
it
Like
happened so quickly, and
it was like the
and
levee
but
broke, and there we went.
and I love it because everything that happens, all these guys going to different places, and so if you listen to any pro wrestling show, they say this line now, and there's not a lot of things that we seriously claim credit for. I will tell you this: Mr. Showtime Michael Wright is the first person who have said a rising tide lifts all ships
Mm-hmm.
as far as the pro wrestling business goes. As soon as we started seeing this, he was the first one to say it, and then all of a sudden you heard it everywhere. You heard it on Busted Open, you heard it on all these other wrestling podcasts. We said it first. And I'll give Showtime his flowers on this one. He said it first. But there's a lot going on in the wrestling world nowadays that it really excites me. I mean, look, whether you're a fan of them or not, AEW just drew 50,000 people in Wembley Stadium. 50,000 people. That's awesome. They're about to go to Australia. They're going back to London, or they're going back to London next year after they're going to be in Texas where the Rangers play. That's a lot of stuff going on for, again, not to knock them, but the number 2 promotion right now, because Wrestling International is huge right now because they don't get these huge shows half the time, so they foam at the mouth for them. But speaking of AEW, I think let's move on to there. A lot of stuff happened over in Tony's world, in Tony's neck of the woods, if you will. We get John Moxley starts off Dynamite this week, making his return, and what seems to be a heel turn. It was a very confusing thing for a lot of people, even people who I know watch wrestling and like Moxley were still pretty confused by what they said. I actually got a text message in one of my wrestling group chats that said, is Moxley off the wagon because he sounds like he's drunk right now?
The Moxley thing, I I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority here. I've never been the biggest Moxley fan. I
I
appreciate
am
him.
not as well.
I appreciate him. It's no doubt the guy knows how to work in the ring to a point. I believe he's been thrust far too much in main event scenes. Even back to WWE, sure, he had his one world title reign, but I don't believe that gentleman should be near a world title. I believe he should be near mid card titles. And now this new character. What did he say? You're going to realize it's not your show.
It's not your company, and I
not your
don't know.
company.
A lot of people I know, you and I have spoken about this. They talked about it, maybe talking about Shane being an invasion. I don't know. Like, kind of even the joke of it was when I said, like, hey, like, did he fall off the wagon? Part of the joke was like, hey, did he realize that he's not talking to that Tony? Like, he was talking to Shivani, and like, did he think he was talking to Tony Khan? Like, hey, I'm talking to Tony. And I'm like, but
my biggest fear is that it is an invasion angle, and it's something so dumb because it's an ROH invasion, and I will just facepalm. I would just, no, please, dear God.
geez.
But I wouldn't put it past them. I have spoken to you many times and said, well, and kind of soft defended AEW a little, and I can't. I
I'm
can't
trying.
anymore.
Listen, I am openly trying to be nicer to AEW lately. I think there's a lot of stuff that they're doing that's very good. I was looking at the card for All Out, and they have some cool stuff going on. And one of the cool things they have going on, we'll get into in a little bit. This stuff with Mox, though, it kills me. I think for a guy who I've been told has creative control over his character for the most part, I don't know, something about this. This leans into them. A lot of people saying that he's a little unhappy with his contract at AEW currently, and I could see this being that because I don't see John Moxley sitting in the back going, it'd be really cool if you team me up with Marina Shafir.
Yeah. The whole Moxley thing, you think about why he left WWE. It was over character stuff. And I'm sorry, you've allowed him for years to, I guess, be a version of who he actually is, kind of a wild man, because he legitimately is kind of a wild man. But now, this character, I don't know if it was the shaved head. I don't know if it was the fact that he looked a little bit more, for lack of a better word, clean. Yeah, and I don't mean that like in a sense of not being on something. I mean, physically took a shower with some soap, clean. To the whole thing that made him leave, where he was a germaphobe. It reeked of that at the end to me, and maybe it has to do with Vince being gone. Maybe he wants to come back. Maybe there has been talks of the Shield coming back. Maybe he wants
I'm the
out.
one who keeps saying I want the Shield back, and I think the Shield coming back would be the Shield versus this new bloodline would be the best storyline that they could put forward at this point, and they would draw so much money. But again, I know Mox technically still has like 3 years left on his contract at this point. He would have to actually get fully released.
And this is where I remember we got kind of off on a tangent. I remember many times, because let's think back just not too long ago with the problems in AEW basically looking like a high school cafeteria with people having little beefs back and forth, and there being a very huge lack of professionalism. I wonder if that killed it for him. Honestly, I couldn't blame him if it did.
I mean, it's killed them. It's killed it for other people.
Yeah.
One of them is the current WWE Undisputed World Heavyweight Champion. You can't tell me that's not what killed it for. You tell me that you have you have different creative differences with the other executive vice presidents. Yeah, because they run into locker rooms and start fights with people. I'm just saying.
It's
with a pregnant woman in the locker room. That happened.
Well,
that's a thing.
And I think this is why nobody can compete with WWE when it comes to like being number 2 is kind of being number 1, because you're legitimately in it. You're not in. It's an apples and a brick we're comparing, and I'm sorry, but I left high school behind, and the amount of high school drama that comes out of there. I mean, what was there recently? MJF and Britt Baker? Like,
there was
okay.
MJF, which I like how MJF kind of summed it up. It seemed like he was like, this just seems like he's like, tell me if this sounds right to, if this smells right to you, and like the way he said it is like it sounds kind of dumb.
And I buy what he's saying. I'm just saying it's the fact that you heard it again.
Yeah, it's just I feel like there's always something, and where like even when you get some of these guys in there that you're like, oh, maybe they'll elevate this younger talent. It feels like a lot of these guys are dropping down to what these younger guys are doing. Like you spent like, I'll use Copeland as the example. Edge spent 30 years basically in the WWE, the biggest wrestling promotion in the world. And he thought it was a good idea to jump off the top of a cage at 50 something.
It's
like come on, man. Like, and what's more is we said it the other day, I'm pretty sure Edge not being there, Copeland not being there is completely what's throwing the House of Black out of contention for anything now, because they don't know what to do with them, because they were probably still supposed to be involved with Edge at this point.
Oh my goodness. I don't want to always bash AEW, because I mean, at the end of the day, they do put on some good stuff. It's a little bit too spot heavy for my liking, but the House of Black, you mentioned it. I wish those 3 could go to TNA.
I wish they could go anywhere at this point. I just want to see them do something. I've said out of the 3 of them, Brody King is probably the one that I'm the least fan of. But Malachi and Buddy Matthews are amazing, amazing workers. And they cut a good promo. I don't understand what the issue is. And Buddy Matthews looks like a damn star. He looks like he's somebody.
Yes, and I mean, go back just a few years and think about the match series that Matthews and, at the time, what was he, Aleister Black. Just think about them 2 working together. Their chemistry's undeniable, whether on the same team or across from each other. And Brody King, while maybe it's the big guy thing where I'm like, no, it's cool. I want to, as what did Big E say? I want to see big meaty men slapping big meat kind of thing. I'm a
that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I am definitely a fan of Brody King, but again, I think he's I'm not sure how old he is. I know I'm pretty sure he's in his 30s.
He's got to be in his 30s.
But he needs to stop with this whole like trying to do what Darby Allin does. Like, cool, we get it, you're tough as nails. I wouldn't want to meet you in a dark alley kind of thing, but you've paid enough dues. I don't need you going headfirst through a coffin right now.
Oh, not at all. Speaking of people I don't understand, Ishii, Tomohiro Ishii. I like, we're gonna go into some more of the like people not understanding things later on in the show, but this Stone Pitbull thing, I don't get him. First of all, he's 5'3".
On a good day.
Secondly, he looks like he's 75.
I mean, not wrong. Not wrong.
And Hound, you and I have both been in the ring. If someone who was half your, all right, me and you are a prime example. If you walked over and hit me with a forearm shiver right in my jaw and I no-sold you, what would the next one be?
Well, it wouldn't even be a forearm shiver. It would be a chop to the chin.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
would.
yeah.
You would have forced my bump.
Yes, whether you liked it or not, you were going down.
Yeah, I don't understand this because he doesn't come off that tough. Like he doesn't look tough to me. Maybe that's what it is. I'm big on aesthetics in wrestling, and when Claudio and Hangman are throwing their back out to get down to your level, it hurts the product at this point.
You saying this, it just clicked for me, and I think this is where who is I'm drawing a blank. Forgive me. The Japanese gentleman. He's older. He has the shaved head, but he's got the weird.
Suzuki.
Thank you,
Minoru Suzuki.
Minoru Suzuki. Well,
He's another one that sometimes I don't always.
Well, but the two of them, when they do it together, it works, and I think they think that just translates because a lot of it too is the fact that fans, much like us, like you get super into it and you get excited because these dudes are really teeing off on each other. But I'm sorry, you take either one of them and stick them in there with a Braun Strowman type, and they hit him once, he's supposed to be like, well, that tickles, and then kill them.
Well, and even if so, I always say it this way: if you don't see things like that in like mixed martial arts, which is what you're supposed to be kind of likening this to. And someone tried to have the argument with me like, well, it just happened. Yeah, it just happened. And one of the guys involved with it got slept with like 30 seconds left in the fight. It's a stupid idea. So if you're going to, I don't know. I don't like no selling to begin with. I don't like trading of forearms. Don't get me wrong. If you have a baby face and he's down on his knees and he starts firing back, and all of a sudden now the baby face and the heel are firing back and forth because the baby face is feeling it. Yeah, I get it. Like there's a buildup, but they just walked in and started hitting each other for no reason for like 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
So
it's a really long time.
It is, and a lot of it. The wrestling schools in Japan, I know a lot of those guys. I know Minoru Suzuki legitimately has fought. Like he's actually a legitimate tough guy.
Yeah, he's fought Shamrock.
Yeah, so a lot of them, what is that? Is it Bushido the Warrior Way? So
yeah,
I think too much of that is permeating the storytelling aspect of this, where yes, you can Hulk up, but the Hulk up moment is supposed to be the part that brings the crowd up to the crescendo. You can't crescendo for a 15-minute match. You just can't.
It just doesn't work. And he essentially had the same match on Dynamite and Collision. He had Hangman Adam Page on Dynamite, and then he had Kyle Fletcher on Collision. And they basically did the same thing in both matches. And I'm supposed to believe that Ishii is gonna bulldoze 6'4" Kyle Fletcher. It's not. Listen, I liken this to back in the day they did this, and this is a wrestler who I very much like. I love his work and I love what they do. Rhino in ECW was a monster.
Yeah.
But that's because the biggest guy other than Rhino was the Sandman. Then they brought him into the WWE, and they tried to have him still be a monster. And he was this beast, and he was unstoppable. And they had him go after the Intercontinental title. And the problem was with who held the Intercontinental title, and it was Kane. And all of a sudden, Rhino came up to his nipples, and he stopped being viewed as a monster.
Rhino has my favorite saying of all time. He said, "Nobody's ever kicked out of a gore." Somebody's like, "I've seen people." He's like, "No, that was a spear."
See, like I said, I love Rhino. I'm just
I
saying,
love
like,
Rhino.
unfortunately, that it was like almost like a way of doing him dirty at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get off the rant of hating Ishii and certain aspects of Japanese wrestling. I'm gonna move on to something really cool that happened. Swerve and Hangman fully renewed their rivalry this past week, and they are now signed for a cage match at the All Out pay-per-view.
That
I
yeah.
I think this is gonna be good. I am trying to like Hangman a little bit more. He's he's I get what they're trying to do with him. I get what he's trying to do with himself. The problem is he is just bland in general. Swerve is a star. He's got star written all over him. I think it's a very much a disservice how they treated his world title run. But overall, I think that Swerve and Hangman at the pay per view is going to be very good. I think this is going to be from the looks of things. They've got about 6 matches lined up for All Out right now. I'm sure they'll add another match or two this week. But this is one of those where I think they could really they could seal the show realistically. I don't think they're going to because we're gonna have Pac and Osprey on that show too. So
Yeah. I think Swerve and Hangman right now need to continue this program with each other. And I agree with you. Swerve's title reign was done a huge disservice. From everything that I've read and heard, Danielson didn't even want to win the title, and it was kind of thrust upon him. In fact, I heard somebody talking about they were potentially going to do a reverse Montreal screw job and give Danielson the win against his will in front of everybody in Wembley. But I also understand the vision that Tony Khan had there of Bryan Danielson standing there celebrating triumphantly in the ring with the title. Totally get it. But I think for the foreseeable future, if you want to get the best out of Hangman, it's not so much that you need to beat this feud into the ground. Like, let's just say we're not going to call this match a blow-off match, but I think Hangman has to go over in this one and kind of let them orbit near each other enough where there's still a little bit of friction where the orbits touch, and then when eventually, the paths collide, it leads back into that. And I think you can maybe stall for another 3-4 months that way while you truly figure out what you're going to do, because you do have to plan for Danielson, and I don't believe he's going to have a long title reign. And I
I mean
don't
he
want
kind
to.
of can.
Yeah, I also don't want to see the title go right back to Swerve. And I don't want to see the title go to Hangman right now. I'd like to see it. I'm not sure where I'd like to see it, but I almost would like to see it on somebody unexpected.
I don't know where they're going to go with the world title after this. I mean, they have challengers lined up, but I mean, challengers kind of don't mean dick.
Well, wait, how close are we to Adam Cole coming back?
I don't know, 17 years.
Fair enough. Well, I wouldn't be opposed to it being Adam Cole.
I wouldn't be opposed to it being Adam Cole. The problem is I don't know if and when Adam Cole is ever going to come back. Here's my thing. Adam Cole left WWE because he didn't want to be a manager, and then he came to AEW and basically became a manager.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
I
not
mean,
wrong.
he just kept getting hurt, and he did nothing but manage the Undisputed Kingdom. And now he's not even doing that. He's just not on camera whatsoever. Him and Wardlow are off somewhere doing something with somebody. I want to believe that Cole is at least doing rehab. Wardlow's just making boo boo face.
Well, I mean, Cole legitimately did blow his ankle off of his body, so
yeah.
My gosh,
but he
broke it in like 6 spots.
It's like this is like the 7th major injury he's had in the last like 3 years.
He's well, much like with the Young Bucks, the word "young" needs to be removed from that because
Yeah,
they're mid-30s.
he is not
Well,
a baby.
no, he's he's getting close to middle-aged. Like he's pretty soon he's going to be dealing with what we're dealing with, where you just wake up in the morning going, "Oh, well, that's just how my shoulder is forever."
Forever. Let's see. We've got Jamie Hayter made her in-ring return after being out for over a year. She looked great. I really like Jamie Hayter. I think she's one of those ones from AEW's women's division that can really do a lot of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if after she runs through this whole I'm mad at the Outcast thing, if they set her up with Mercedes. I could definitely see that happening. I think that would be a nice little fight. I think they could get a good program out of that and get a couple good matches. But we'll see where that one's going. Again, that's kind of just a little nod for them. This is the one that I'm kind of excited about. Daniel Garcia and MJF are now set for All Out. Set as a grudge match. They didn't say anything about no rules. It's just a grudge match right now. I like them letting Garcia loose on this one a little bit. They've let him. They let him kind of be angry when he's talking. He's not just trying to be funny. I like the. I like the line. You think you lost your ring? I stole it and I pawned it in Buffalo for a round trip ticket to Wembley so I could screw you out of the title. I really like that line. I like that he said his obsession, his drug is to ruin Maxwell Jacob Friedman's life. Like all of that was really good. I will say this though, this match could be what gets Garcia over finally. At the same time, if he doesn't get over with this, I think we're looking at, unfortunately, just another guy that can put on a good match.
Yeah, this is what do you want to say here? I guess this is the swimmies are coming off. We're going to see if this guy can swim, kind of thing. Because listen, MJF he's a fantastic worker, and you can argue the best in the business on the mic.
It's up there.
Yeah, you can make the argument. I don't think he is, but you absolutely can make the argument.
I think he's one of the most natural in the business on the mic. I think there are guys who could be better than him on the mic, but I think he's so natural at what he does. Yeah. Because I think Ospreay could be better if he was produced a little bit.
Yeah, and well, I think they should just lean more into Ospreay being a bit of an English hooligan and let him bruv everything a little bit more. I think it would get super over. But then again, I also want to go to England and just swing some pints in a bar and sing soccer shanties or football shanties, if you will.
That's fair. Like I'm forever blowing bubbles.
But yeah, and I like how you put that. Natural is probably the optimal way to describe that. And yes, Garcia, I'm almost hoping MJF is helping him a little bit, but just enough to kind of give him an outline, because I always thought Garcia, while his in-ring work is incredible, I love the way he works. I like anybody who can technically grind. Don't get me wrong, every once in a while I love some crazy flippy dippy stuff where it's just like, that was unbelievable to see. But watching somebody who tells a story with a wrist lock, or when they go into a little bit of the ground and pound style stuff, you're like, I believe that this is really brutal right now. And Garcia has all that. He has the kid from New York vibe, like the pissed off kid from New York. And I hope people are helping him a little bit, because I always thought he just never seemed comfortable talking.
I completely agree with that, and I think I feel like how he was being presented this week was a lot better than how he's been being presented. Like he just always looked off. And I say the same thing about Nick Wayne. He kind of always looked like he just had like boo-boo face. Like he's just a little sad.
Yeah.
But I do like what they are doing with it, with this feud right now. I like a lot of the stuff that's going on. In all honesty, a lot of the stuff leading into All Out currently. I like that they were smart enough to kind of lay the groundwork before All In happened. Like, hey, these are like, yes, all these are happening on this big stage, but as soon as these guys win, they have to go fight these guys. And I
Yeah.
like that they set that up. One of those setups was, so we got the official singles debut of Ricochet on AEW television. I want to talk less about that because it was
not his finest moment.
It was unimpressive.
Yes, I was thoroughly whelmed.
Yes,
and
I was actually, I think I felt underwhelmed. I might have gotten underwhelmed.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get a good match. Here's my thing is, he couldn't get a really great match out of Kyle Fletcher. And I feel like Kyle Fletcher has been putting on awesome work lately. So
you're not wrong, but there's also, and you know as well as I do, I mean, I was never some top tier worker, but there were people I knew who, you know, and while I was good enough, and another person might have been good enough or better than me, together, oil and water. It may very well have been oil and water. It may also have been just the difference from going from WWE to AEW. And I think there's a little bit too much of a focus already on, okay, how does this lead to Ricochet Ospreay? And because that's where this is all heading.
Obviously. But I really like how they did this afterwards, where Ospreay came out after the match. It looks like they're about to cut some type of promo, and you don't even see him. It could be because he's a little bit shorter, but you don't even see Pac slip out, and he hits a reverse Hurricane Rana on the stage on Ospreay, and I really, really enjoyed this. I enjoyed what Pac did and what Pac said. Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna come in, and you know what? Let me be the first one to welcome you to AEW. Now get to the back of the line. I like that he said it, and I like that he lifted Ospreay's head up, and I like when he said, "This one though, this one belongs to me." And I'm a huge fan of Pac. I liked him as Neville, and I love him currently. I think for the last couple months, he's been on overdrive, and I think we've gotten. It's funny because he keeps getting thrown in there with some of these guys who I think he's supposed to be putting over, or like everyone's treating him like, oh, we're watching this for this other guy. Again, him and Okada. Yeah. Everybody's watching Okada and him for Okada. And I'll tell you what, man, for being the Japanese John Cena, if you will, Okada didn't impress me against Pac. Pac came in there. First of all, he looks like a badass. He looks like he's like not to steal the term grizzled young veteran, but from the tag team, but he looks like that. He looks like he looks like the guy that'll punch you in the face, and he looks like an athlete. Like he looks like he can do what he does.
Yes.
And and leading into this, Okada just looked like a dude with a dad bod that throws a nice drop kick.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I kind of do love this this heel corporate Okada. There have been some moments that made me legitimately laugh out loud, where I was like, "Okay, I'm with this," but I completely follow what you're saying there. And when Pac hit that that reverse Hurricane Rana, it made me think back, and we're going back a little bit here, and. You and I were watching an old school TNA pay-per-view together, and we watched AJ Styles get suplexed off the side of the ring into the guardrail, and I was like, yeah, because he needs to pay more dues. Like,
yes. It's funny. I was thinking that before when we were talking about it.
I was like, yeah, clearly Ospreay needs to do that right now. Like,
he's
arguably the best wrestler on the planet.
Best guy in the whole company. He needs to pay a few more dues. I like this lead up though. I like the fact that Pac kind of said, like, hey, like, I'm not the guy that you should be overlooking, though. Because he's not the guy that they should be overlooking.
You know,
They,
it's something you've been saying for a long time, because I had no clue who Neville was back in to go back to that name. You were the one who told me to look out for him. And I was absolutely floored by it. And I think since leaving Neville behind and becoming the Bastard Pac, I guess it's revisiting a name he had, but he's shown that he is legitimately world class, and I truly believe that if you can't get a good match with him, it's not on him. That's on you.
yeah, I think it's on you. I think he puts on an awesome match every time, and I don't like, aside from the fact that he just kind of loses too much. I think that's the big problem is booking more than anything else, because I don't ever believe that he's a viable threat because he loses all the time.
Yeah, and I've never been a fan of that, because he's been doing the job for quite a while. Which, okay, I mean, look, every wrestler has their sunrises and sunsets in their career, and their ups and their downs, and the times when they're untouchable, and times when they're the cannon fodder. But you don't. The only thing about Pac when it comes to appearance is the fact that, what is he, 5'7"? He can't help that.
Something
But
like that.
other than that, the dude's chiseled out of granite. He probably has a vertical jump higher than his damn height. He can technically go. He can high fly with the best of them. When he throws some kind of a strike, it looks like he lays them in there well, but it looks like it has murderous intent. He's damn near a perfect wrestler.
And I feel like when he throws, because of how he's built, when he throws power stuff, it looks believable too. When he does that pickup German, like, I buy that.
Yeah, well, what is he? He's like, legitimately, he's like, what, 190 pounds?
Probably. He's probably sitting dancing right around like the 200-pound mark.
And the crazy thing is, though, if you were to get like a body composition of him, I'm willing to bet 170 pounds. That is lean mass.
Yeah. Oh, it's gotta
be. He's muscle on muscle.
Well, and and the funny thing is he trimmed up a little bit recently.
Yeah.
Because when he came back and he had the match with Okada, I said this, that he looked like he trimmed up, because part of it was, I think he got too big for his own good at one point, because he wasn't sitting, like, when he would go up to the top rope, you could tell he wasn't sitting there, like, he wasn't balancing well, and I think he was too big. I think he got too muscular at one point. But so I will make this comparison. The way they treat Pac is the way they were treating Dolph Ziggler.
100%. That's
and we
perfect.
just made that. We just said that you can't just keep knocking the dude off, no matter how good they are, and expect them to be a viable threat. And that's what they were doing with Pac for the longest time. I know Will Ospreay is going to probably win this match, but I would love it if Pac won this. If Pac won this and went on a nice tear and just put on banger after banger.
In a crazy way, I think it would be, because ultimately they want to lead to the Ricochet Ospreay match, and I don't believe that match needs a belt.
I don't think it does either.
I
think it just needs respect.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier with the Hangman and Swerve thing. You kind of just need to keep those two in orbit near each other. And
if I could see them doing for Ricochet Ospreay, instead of having it be for that international title, have them do a best of 5 series, and the winner of the best of 5 series gets a shot at the world title.
Yeah, or if they want to keep it at the international title level, whatever that, if that's the equivalent to the IC title or whatever, I don't know, one of the 307 belts that AEW has.
Listen, Tony likes to collect his action figures, and all action figures need accessories.
This is true. I mean, for crying out loud.
Batman needs his grappling hook, bro. He needs
Yep.
his grappling hook.
How long do you think until they combine the international and the continental title and they just full on pull infringement and create an intercontinental title?
They're not going to, because then they'd have one less belt.
Lord.
It's not gonna happen. Gosh. That's where we're at, man.
And I don't even like the design of their belts. Like, I just
I like the international title. I like the world title. I outside of that, like they're all okay. Here's one of my things, and I'm gonna get more into this now that, because I'm gonna talk about, we finally find out who Bryan Danielson is gonna face at All Out, and it's gonna be that hooker, that purist Jack Perry.
Yeah, they're having
the TNT champion.
Yeah, what's going to be the stipulation? A real glass match?
I don't know what they're going to do with this. Here's my thing. Going back to the title belts a little bit on this. Now, Jack Perry is currently the TNT champion, and Mercedes is the TBS champion. And I realize that they are, how we've heard is that a lot of their talks with Time Warner Discovery, Time Warner Discovery, TWD, is going well, and they're in the midst of getting this new television deal that they've been hoping for. Sake of argument, let's just say that is being embellished a little bit. I'm not going to say that they're not going to get picked up by somebody else, but what do they do with those titles then?
I mean, it just becomes the PBS title.
Public Broadcasting. BBC Championship.
Good Lord. Oh my gosh. It's the Kiwanis Club title.
Can we get the Destination America Championship going?
Oh my God. I would want to compete for that. Are you kidding me? That has the greatest show ever. Hillbilly Blood, or it was something like it was, and what was it? Hillbilly Monster Investigators, something like that. It's just the worst, greatest show of all time.
It sounds terrible.
It's amazing. The fact that I sat through several episodes, everyone else should, and not get that portion of their life back.
The Cinemax World Championship.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Oh,
that is perfect.
See, that's why I needed you on here. We needed this moment. Oh my God. And then and eventually they'll bring in Tahiti Fred to fight him. I'm sorry, I mean Samoa Joe.
Oh my gosh, you just brought me back 15 years. We're in Ruby Tuesdays right now, coming up with new names for Samoa Joe.
Here's the thing. I don't understand how Danielson is facing Jack Perry at All Out. He's got three. If we include Jack Perry, he currently has 3 number 1 contenders.
Well, I mean,
Jack Perry is the number 1 contender for All Out. At Grand Slam, in the Dynamite Grand Slam, because all the Dynamites have special names, he is supposed to be facing Darby Allin for the world title. Well, I'm sorry, Darby Allin is the number 1 contender for the world championship. Let us not assume that Bryan Danielson is just going to retain the title. He's going to retain the title.
If he doesn't, I would be flabbergasted.
If the guy who ends Bryan Danielson's career is Jungle Boy Jack Perry, I have a stuffed Donald Duck that's right there. I will eat it. I will eat it. I will do it on this show.
Dude,
I'm a man of my word.
CM Punk would show up backstage at AEW and beat him up again.
And Christian just won the Casino Gauntlet thing.
I could
So
almost see
Christian,
it
out
being
of all three of
Christian.
them, Christian is the only one that I see as a viable threat for this. I just want him
Yeah,
to win it while he's not wearing the turtleneck.
I you say that, and I almost hope he does win it wearing the turtleneck after Killswitch just murders Danielson.
Everyone keeps saying how like Killswitch is going to turn on him. I was like, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the fact that they keep teasing it is like, and that's the other thing. Are we if Christian wins the world title, are we going to get Christian versus Luchasaurus for the world title?
I mean, you have now, you've just done some long-term booking, my friend, for AEW. Granted, it's crap booking, but at least some
But
long-term storytelling for them.
if by long term you mean 2 months,
Dude, they don't know what they're doing 6 minutes before the show.
that's fair. So outside of that, the only other thing, because unfortunately, as much as I do watch Collision, they don't do much on Collision. At least nothing newsworthy. The one thing that they did do is Hikaru Shida won a 4-way match to be the number one contender for Mercedes Monet's TBS title at All Out. I do think this is going to be a good match. I was actually a fan of the 4-way, even Hikaru Shida. Though I'm not the biggest fan of Hikaru Shida, I'm not against Hikaru Shida. I think she was very good. I like that she was in there with Serena Deeb. I like that she was in there with Thunder Rosa and Queen. I always forget how to say her name. I always just call her Queen Amidala, even though that's not what it is. I'm in Nala or something like that.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and I can't say that word either.
I can't. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. I always forget her name, honestly, because I don't see her enough. Because she's on one episode of Collision every 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I've always been, I'm not like a fan of Hikaru Shida, like, oh my god, she's on TV. But I haven't seen her put on something where I was like, meh. I've always been like, all right, I enjoyed that. And you and I had the pleasure of being in Brooklyn to see Mercedes Monet, if you will, main event a PLE, since we're going to have to go that route. And you and I were standing on chairs in the Barclays Center applauding at the end. She can
Yeah,
go, but
she can go.
she needs a proper opponent to go with.
I will say this. My biggest knock on Mercedes Monet, the former Sasha Banks, if you will, and I realize that this might be something that she can't fully control, but it is her size. She's a little bit on the smaller side, and I think that's part of the reason why she gets hurt as often as she does. And the other side of that is, like, I understand the move she's trying to do as her finisher, that like gory special that she spins into a DDT. The problem is she's not big enough to pull it off, so it always looks bad. I like the bank statement or whatever they call it now. I think that's a really cool move. I'm actually surprised that she hasn't kind of turned the Meteora into more of a finisher at this point. But that gory into the DDT thing, that thing's got to go, man. I've been saying it for months. I haven't seen her hit it well once yet.
There's been a kind of a theme running through this, and it's been about kind of if we were talking MMA, there's weight classes for a reason, kind of thing. Like, do I believe Mercedes Monet and a Julia could have a good match together? Yes, but I also believe if we were going to book it properly, Julia hits her, Mercedes Monet falls down and sells the crap out of it. I don't believe, like, that move she's doing. She doesn't even have a puncher's chance at pulling it on like a Nia Jax type. She's not going to hit that on a Chris Statlander.
She's not going to hit it on a Rhea. She's not going to hit it. She's not going to hit it on a Charlotte.
She wouldn't even hit it on Becky or Bayley.
Well,
and
that's because Becky, maybe. Bailey would, no.
Listen,
Just no. Look, I know you're in love with Bailey. It's okay.
I am. Listen, how dare you say such truths?
Sorry to put your life out there like that.
That's
So
know what?
that was AEW. We're gonna mosey across the street and go with Friday Night SmackDown. This was Friday night, August 30th, from Berlin. This was the the go home show before Bash at Berlin. Again, guys, if you want to, you will be able to see our review episode. I will make sure that we put the link for that in the description, along with all of our social media. All that stuff will be down here, along with Hound's social media stuff, so that you can get in contact with him if you want to. He's a big cuddly teddy bear, folks. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This, much like many of the go home SmackDowns, was actually more eventful than I thought it was going to be, but a lot of it was because they threw a lot of people on there that were not going to be on Bash at Berlin at all.
Yeah.
So we get LA Knight, and he starts off with an open challenge, and Ludwig Kaiser answers it. I thought this was the best I've seen Ludwig Kaiser.
I think Kaiser has... First of all, he's got a face you just want to punch.
You just want to punch. He's never going to be a babyface.
He's a natural heel.
He's the Miz. He might go babyface at some point, but it's not going to last very long.
No, and the crowd wouldn't even let him, I don't think, or it would be one of those ironically he's cheered kind of things. But he's another one. He can just flat out go. And
he's a great wrestler. He's got a good. He's obviously in shape. He's he looks like he's chiseled out of stone too. And LA Knight's a great worker. I want LA Knight to get a program for this United States title that proves that, like, cements him as kind of the guy that we're looking at to eventually supplant Cody. Because I think it needs to be him. I think it should be him. The problem is they're just not. They're not doing it with him. That, like, even this open challenge, I appreciate this open challenge, but they like, I like this match, and I like the open challenge, and I like that Kaiser even got cheered. But it was the only place he's gonna get cheered.
Yeah.
But I don't like anything else that they're really doing with LA Knight right now, other than putting the US title on him. I keep saying I would love it if they banned a certain big man from Raw, so he had to go somewhere else, and they ran a program with LA Knight and Bronson Reed. I think that would be a nice way to get them over, and they can run a lengthy program where, like, Bronson Reed doesn't necessarily lose matches. He loses the matches, but he wins the match. Yeah. Like, he gets himself disqualified after the match or something like that, where it's one of those things where you have to prove how tough LA Knight is.
Yeah, one of those scenario where maybe he lost the match, but he clearly won the fight.
Yeah. Like I think they should do one where, like, they even like stop the match. Like, hey, like, winner of the match via referee stoppage, Bronson Reed, and then he just keeps getting up and going for the tsunami, and they reverse the decision because of it.
As long as that doesn't lead to LA Knight becoming a Super Cena.
I don't think so. I think it would turn into, I think that would lead into a Cena-esque type run, in like the original Cena run, where like, hey, I made the US title important, and now I'm going to go win the world title because I'm the most popular guy on this show, even more so than the world champion.
So I'm hoping, we just came out of nearly a 4-year title run, and then a title run that ended on the most evil of days at 666 days. And I don't know what the longest title reign for the U.S. title is, but it's not a bad idea to find the right people for LA Knight to have him become the person with that stamp, even if it's, I don't know, I'm certain somebody's held it for over a year, but even if we're talking 16 months, which, was unheard of a few years back, now 16 months, that's just around the corner in terms of title reigns.
I really want Cody to lose the belt. I'm sorry, I say that all the time. I think Cody losing the belt will actually add some character to his title reign.
But to whom? That's the thing. Like
so originally,
I thought you were going to say so low, and I was going to be like, "How dare you?"
No. So originally, what we had said was it made a whole lot of sense for Cody to lose his second match against AJ Styles. If he lost that match and then won the title back like a month later at SummerSlam, let's say, that would have set this precedent because we just came out of a 4-year title run.
Yeah.
Outside of Cody, who did we believe was ever going to beat Roman? Nobody. We don't need another super lengthy title reign. If Cody lost the title, then all of a sudden the Logan Pauls, the Kevin Owens, all these guys that they're putting in front of him now look like they're viable threats for this world title.
Yeah, and it's we early on we kind of now have the same problem. Okay, but who? And that's the problem we had with Roman. But who? Yes,
that's the thing is if he had lost it right away to AJ on like their second match against each other, and then even if he wins it back a month or two later, okay, but like you're beatable. Now when you put Kevin Owens in there, you might lose. Now when you put it in there with LA Knight or somebody, you might lose this match. So, and you set it up for the obvious crescendo, which is Randy Orton, but like, and I want full heel Randy Orton. I don't want any of the smiling babyface Randy Orton. I want kick in the head Randy Orton.
I think I've been thinking this for quite a bit. I think we're within 3 weeks of seeing that.
I think so too, especially after. We'll get more into.
Yes.
Bash at Berlin.
Don't bury the lead.
In Berlin. We get Cody and Kevin, Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens having a segment. Owens calls out Cody for having a knee injury. Cody says his knee is fine. Kevin whispers something in his ear as he's leaving. They eventually let everyone in on this. Basically, Kevin Owens said to him, "Remember, you wanted this." And I am for it, man. Again, listen to our Bash in Berlin recap episode, our review episode. You can hear how either I was right or Showtime was right or everybody was wrong, and you can agree with us or disagree with us. But at the same time, man, I want a Kevin Owens heel turn. I want all of the Kevin Owens heelness. I want pop-up power bombs onto the apron. I want all of the Kevin. I want Kevin Owens speaking French because he's the mean foreigner. He's from Montreal.
I completely understand and agree. This is just my, maybe it's just my big dumb idiot thing. Kevin Owens with anger issues is still like my favorite character of all time. So, yeah. Like when Sami Zayn says to him, "I think you're a rageaholic," and he waits a second and he screams, "Oh, what?" Like, just like.
Is it because you can relate to him? Because I've seen you do this.
Maybe.
What?
I still, at least once a week, I watch like a 5-minute YouTube compilation of that and laugh and laugh and laugh. But yes, Kevin Owens as a heel is infinitely better than Kevin Owens as a face. And I think it's because he looks like he would be so lovable and cuddly, but at the same time, he has the most menacing face. Like you want to hug him, but like hug him from a distance.
Yeah, like I want to side hug him.
Yeah,
so I don't have
as
to
long
look at his face.
exact. Because if I look at his face, I'll be, he's gonna kill me.
we
I love Kevin Owens.
I do love Kevin Owens. I loved him when he was Kevin Steen. They do. After that, we get Carmelo Hayes and Andrade had another match. I'm digging this series. They are now even two up for these matches. I would love if they're gonna do since they're obviously gonna do a fifth match with this. I would love if they do a 2 out of 3 falls match as a blow off.
So, and I agree because Andrade is an incredible worker. Carmelo Hayes is an incredible worker, and they have some really good chemistry going on. The question is, who does the win benefit more, and who does the loss hurt less? Because unfortunately, as great as that is, there's been too often you have that, and you come off of that, and sure, you could say that each guy's getting a rub off of this, but how many times have we seen someone drop off a cliff after losing something like this when they shouldn't have? Like, think back, Shelton Benjamin and Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels gave him the rub, and then Shelton Benjamin fell off a cliff.
I think it. So here's the thing. I think both of them can benefit off of it going either way, so long as you immediately have something else for them to do once this is done.
So let me throw this at you.
Which this is my one nitpick for WWE. This is the one thing that we kind of nitpick on WWE about is so the major storylines, the Codys, the Bloodlines, the Judgment Days, they're awesome. They're so prominent, but sometimes some of this stuff that's like down here where Hayes and Andrade are, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And as much as they're firing on all cylinders, I hate to say it, but a lot of times, especially with SmackDown, the interviews get interrupted by these pesky matches.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and that's because SmackDown's been dominated by a legitimate a Hollywood movie for 4 years at this point, and that's really what the Bloodline saga has been. So here's I wanted to throw this at you with this idea for this feud. So let's just say let's say they put Hayes over just because Hayes is the younger talent. That's great because you can then put him in a program with someone not near a belt, which unfortunately this kind of throws a wrench in the whole LA Knight idea there. But I think the loser of that should almost get into a program with secondary title so it keeps their name relevant, even if they don't come out with the belt, but they come out where it was like, would have had if it wasn't for you pesky kids.
I have an idea. And this is how you keep both of them relevant, and it drums up interest in a title that unfortunately has fallen off in the last few months. They run this feud. They run the course, and they do the Sheamus Cesaro thing. They tag up afterwards, and they win the tag team titles. And you get matches with these two versus like DIY and the Tongans and stuff like that. And I think we would get really, really good stuff out of that.
I like where your head's at with that. Yeah, so coming out the other side of this, because neither one of them is a face, Andrade or
neither one's a traditional face. Here's the thing is, and between the two of them, they're both great workers in the ring. They have as much as they have very athletic styles, they have very different styles. And Carmelo is the better talker, which covers up some of Andrade's broken English.
Yeah, and really that's all it is a language barrier. Because, I've seen Andrade cut promos in Spanish where I'm like, I have no idea what you said, but I agree with you times 2. Like, yeah, I'm fired up now.
Or stop being mean to me.
Yeah.
In Spanish.
How dare you say
listen, we work in restaurants, so we understand enough of it.
Well, I understand enough that I'm being insulted, yes. But that's about it.
I know what that means. I know what that sentence meant.
It's friggin' meatball. Sorry for any listener, that is an inside joke from a place where Mr. Zaff and I used to work together. God, we really have been around each other a long time.
Way too long.
I was even at your wedding.
Word. Look good.
Yes,
I look
listen,
like
man.
crap, but it's
You
okay.
can only polish a turd so far, sir.
So
Still a shiny piece
the
of crap.
main event of this evening, of this SmackDown before Bash at Berlin, and yes, I will say it like that every single time. So the main event was Nia Jax and Mishin for the women's championship in a street fight. I don't know if they gave it, if they, dubbed it some fancy Berlin street fight or anything like that, but it was a street fight. Nia Jax wins this. I feel like the bigger story coming out of this is Tiffany and Bayley, though. Tiffany coming out, and I know they keep teasing this idea that Tiffany's going to cash in, she's going to cash in, she's going to cash in, she's going to double cross Nia Jax. I think it's actually going to go the opposite way. I think Nia's going to end up double crossing Tiffany at some point because she's going to get so paranoid about it. I think she ends up turning on Tiffany.
Okay, I see where you're going with that, and then potentially leading to, okay, now Tiffany has sights set on cashing this in on Nia.
Now she's actually going to cash it in on her. And honestly, if they do it, I say this all the time. Tiffany Stratton and Bianca Belair are essentially the same character. They're the same thing. The only difference between why you cheer one and why you boo the other is they're both brats, and it's just a matter of perception on this one. Tiffany is a rich brat. I think that's really what it comes off of, is they sell her as a rich brat, where Bianca, with you don't even go here and things like that, she's still, I say it all the time, she's not really a babyface. Though I will cheer her as much as I cheer anyone else.
Yeah, you've definitely touched on something there. It's now September, so we're entering the fall, and I've been saying this today. I've said this a couple times at work earlier today, and Tiffany Stratton full on is a character that's embracing Uggs and pumpkin spice, and
yes,
and I love it.
Like she's going to come down to the ring in the North Face.
Goddamn iced latte! I can't. It needs to happen.
Just PSL all over the place. Oh man, but all right. So guys, that was SmackDown for the week. That was their blow off SmackDown going into Bash of Berlin. Mr. Hound and I are actually going to time travel. So if you stick with us for just a second or two, we'll see you on the other side. Oh, Jesus. Unfortunately, we're still wearing the same clothes, as you see, which means we're a little smelly. We are not going to dwell too much on what happened at Bash at Berlin. If you want to know our review on that, I will have a link for that in our description, as always. But guys, we get the Raw afterwards. This was in Denver. They open up with Wade Barrett and their new announce team, basically. And I think they expected a bigger pop off of what they got than they got. Unfortunately, they tried to compare Denver to Berlin, and America doesn't cheer the same way that Europe does.
Well, I mean, listen, Denver, everybody there is just high. So, yeah, they're just like, cool, man. But, look, some people don't like him. I adore Pat McAfee.
I love Pat McAfee.
I mean, did you see his heel promo on College Game Day the other day? I
hope to someday be Pat McAfee. Well, I want to be Pat McAfee when I grow up.
Like, did you see when Alabama was getting ready to play Georgia, what he did? He sang the Georgia fight song for everybody there, and he's like, hey, "Give me Alabama!" And I love him so much.
I say this all the time. Has anyone done more with ADD than Pat McAfee? Because that's his real claim to fame. It's just that he's got ADD.
Oh, good Lord. Oh my gosh. Just the antics. I'm sorry. Him and
Dancing
Michael
on
Cole.
the desk when Shinsuke comes out.
Oh my gosh! Just him and Michael Cole together.
Full yeeting.
It's just, but is I don't think there's a better announcing. Sure, you can argue that you get somebody like Corey Graves is not bad. Corey Graves and Michael Cole is not going to be bad,
So
but it's still
I
not
think
Pat goddamn McAfee.
no, I think Corey Graves is the best single announcer that they have that
Yes.
there is in wrestling right now. That is to say that they still have to team them up with someone, and I think that McAfee and Cole are good old Pat McAfee and Michael Cole.
Michael.
Michael. All right, so we start off the action that we starts off with. We get Rhea Ripley coming out. Good old mommy. Ooh, mommy. And she is calling out Liv Morgan for her women's world title shot. And we get Dom coming out. And is there anyone more over than Dominic Mysterio? Like, realistically.
So,
he's the only person who was able to go heel when he was already a heel.
So Dominic Mysterio right now is when he one day is a grandfather, he gets to tell his grandkids about when he was the ultimate male sex symbol, and you have, well, it may not be actually real, but you've got Rhea goddamn Ripley and Liv Morgan fighting over you, and
by the way, this is also what your grandma used to look like.
Yeah, it does I love Dom. I'm a fan of Dominic Mysterio. I am.
I love his stuff. You know what it makes me think of with Dom? Like the original Austin Powers movie. In England in the 60s, you could be a sex symbol and have bad teeth. It didn't matter. That's Dominic Mysterio.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it is. It's so wonderful.
It's amazing.
And I love that he tries to look like Eddie.
I said at one point, I almost believe that his mullet is extensions because it got so long and so feathery so fast.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not bashing him for it. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
My God.
The mustache, the mullet, everything, every aspect about it. It's great.
As much as you want to be Pat McAfee when you grow up, I want to be Dominic Mysterio right now. Like,
I want to be Dominic Mysterio 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's about it, man.
Oh man. This led to Liv trying to sneak attack Rhea. Rhea elbows Liv, and it looked like she caught her pretty good. Or Liv just sold the hell out of that. One or the other happened. But they attack Rhea's knee. I thought this was good storytelling on this part, especially her not wanting help. Damian coming out. I like them making Damian Priest an actual badass again. Even as a babyface, he's not just a I'm happy to be here babyface anymore. And I think that was a big part of it.
He's believable. And that's the thing. I mean, listen, you happen to know him personally, and it's not an act. Like, that's another one of those people where I'd rather not meet you in a dark alley if you had some bad intentions. Like, I can handle myself. For crying out loud, he split Gunther's chest open.
He's still a legit 6'6". You know, he's a big dude. With a major martial arts background.
Yeah, no, and yeah, he's fantastic. When he first got the title, I was like, all right, let's see what happens with it. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be into it. I ended up being super into his title run and believe he's elevated himself where he's above mid-card title status. And at any point now, he's considered a viable threat for that title.
I want to see where they go with this Terror Twin storyline and how deep it gets into and see if they circle him back around with maybe him and Drew or hell, let's get him and Punk going at it. We keep saying it. CM Punk's a heel. He's a goddamn heel.
He is.
He just happens to get cheered the whole time.
The lines have been blurred since Austin, man. Like
he's a heel. Drew McIntyre's a face.
God, I love Drew McIntyre.
I love all of that. So we get American Made calls out the Wyatt Six for next week. So Chad actually calls out Captain Uncle Howdy, not Captain Howdy. So we will get 3 or 4 members of the Wyatt Six against American Made, American Made, American Made, American Made. I really want them to redo Marcus Bagwell and Scotty Riggs' American Male's theme music to be American Made. I want it in the worst way. They own the rights, obviously, because they own all the WCW stuff. Just do it. And by the way, the person who made up that American Male song, Jimmy Hart.
I love it. See, I appreciate the Wyatt Six. I do. And I appreciate because you know as well as you know that I was always a big proponent of Bray Wyatt, always a big fan of his. I loved his character as the cult leader. I 100%, people might not agree with me, but I adored The Fiend. I thought it was incredible. And yes, and his passing was unexpected and sad. But how long are we going to have the Wyatt Six win a match and stand in the ring and hug and cry about it for 8 minutes? I'm not saying they should ever stop doing that, but it's that portion, because the whole thing was this wasn't supposed to be supernatural. Like with Bray being gone, and it's just supposed to be kind of creepy.
Yeah, I like that it's psychological, that they're all broken minds. I've been saying this now. I want to find out that Uncle Howdy's not really the leader.
It could end up being Alexa Bliss in the end.
I think it's Alexa Bliss. I think I might be taking a deep dive into this a little bit, but even during the videos where they have like Bo and Howdy talking to each other, and like they have that extra high voice. Like, I'm sure it's just them synthesizing the voice of each other. But how great would it be if you found out that it was Alexa Bliss's voice?
Yeah, I think she would almost want that too, because her time spent working with Bray. I've heard her go on record saying how it changed her career trajectory, but it also changed her ability to storytell. Kind of got her out of her own way a little bit, which just also speaks to the stories of the man that Bray was. You know, not only just the creative mind, he was almost his own worst enemy with how creative he was. Like,
he's a perfectionist on top of it, is what they say. Which it's hard to be a perfectionist in pro wrestling, because everything in the world goes wrong.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Nothing is ever perfect.
Yeah,
but I'd like to see. I do want to see where they keep going with the Wyatt Six. I like that they're a little bit more the broken minds rather than just showing up magically. I could do with a little less magic out of them, and I like that. We also get CM Punk coming out and saying that he's going to go after Gunther. And as he's sitting there being all happy with everyone, here comes Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre pulls him off the desk, beats the crap out of him, claymores him while he's lying on the desk, kicks him so hard he kicks him out of his sneaker. and then, as you said, all this stuff about a necklace. and a bracelet. At the end of the whole thing, Drew takes the bracelet back and then tears it apart and shoves it down CM Punk's throat.
Yeah.
I don't know if these two can do anything wrong at this point.
I've never hidden the fact that I've never been the biggest CM Punk fan.
I've never been, but I love what he's doing right now.
I've never been one to say I thought he was bad. I thought he got great stuff out of people. I mean, hell, go back to that. What was it? Him and Cena feuding for damn near a year. It was great. This is they make you believe that legitimately these two don't like each other.
This is the best Drew that I've seen.
Yes, and everything Drew touches has turned to gold as of late. I mean, hell, I don't know if you saw he was doing something at a Fanatics Fest with Big E. Did you see that little thing?
Oh, well,
where he's
what was?
So he's like, yeah, well, you got Big E here, and then they used to call me Big D, and together we're just Big ED. And he's like, oh, and he realizes what he said, and I was like, perfect. I love you, Drew.
They're going down that route again, and I don't think this is going to be a 3-match series. I think they're gonna drag Drew and CM Punk as long as it keeps. Again, draw me money, pal. Draw me money.
The only thing I don't want to see come out of this, because they're doing fantastic work together. The only thing I truly don't want to see come out of this is, okay, whatever it gets to, they have a 3, 4, 5-match series. Obviously it has to end with an odd number, have to have a winner. We can't end a feud on 50-50 both.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be something where it ends, because it's September now. We're going to blink and it's going to be the Royal Rumble. That's just how fast everything goes when the fall hits. So let's just, for argument's sake, say they wrap this thing next month in October. I don't want this to be something that reignites in the Royal Rumble that leads to them having a match at Mania, which means essentially you had a year-long program of that. That doesn't mean they wouldn't do it well. I trust Triple H, if that's the vision he has, for him to pull it off well. But
I don't think that's what we're going to get. I think Mania is pretty much reserved for Punk and Rollins at this point. And I wouldn't be. And I would
belts
be
involved.
I don't know, and I don't know if it needs to be.
That's another one. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot lately.
Like Punk and Rollins is a good enough match that, yeah, the belt can be involved, but does it need to be?
I don't think it needs to be.
I don't think it needs to be. I think it'd be cool if they can naturally get the belt on one of them and the belt becomes a part of it, but I don't think you need the belt.
The one thing that's the only issue that I think when it comes to that with the belt is the fact that it's on Gunther. And I'm sorry, but that man does not have short title reigns.
No, he does not. They said, what, he's at like 80% of his WWE career. He's been a champion at this point.
Yeah, and go back to, what was it? How long did he hold that NXT Europe title?
Whatever the UK title. It was like 2 years or something like that.
And then he just held the Intercontinental title for
over 2 years,
days.
Yeah, so like that.
Yeah, and hell, since he's come to the main roster, only one person has pinned him clean.
Yeah, and that's Sammy.
Which
we will talk about that. So we do get, speaking of the IC title, we get the other 2 members of this 4-way match that we're going to get next week in Dragunov and Braun Strowman. Braun got thrown in there kind of last minute because Bronson Reed was supposed to be in it. He unfortunately is sick with COVID right now. I do hope that he gets better quickly, because I have liked what they've been doing with Bronson Reed. And I love Ilya Dragunov. I kind of hope, as much as we've got Jey Uso involved in this, kind of hope Dragunov comes out the other side of this one. I'd like to see Big Oos maybe go help out Rhea and Priest a little bit more at this point. I don't want to see the problem is I don't see Braun Breaker losing this IC title anytime soon. And if you keep having Jey Uso lose in these big match situations, he's not main event Jey Uso anymore. He's mid card Jey Uso.
Yeah, WWE's dropped the ball with him. Jey Uso
he's upper mid tier Jey Uso.
Yeah, he should have held either the Intercontinental or the U.S. title by this point. I believe that's bad booking. I don't have much to say about their booking ever, unless all of this is to circle around to the eventual Bloodline v. Bloodline, which is coming.
I wish it wasn't, but apparently it is. We see in another tag match, the Unholy Union regain a number one contender spot for the women's title against Jade and Bianca. Just tag team wrestling in the two major companies at this point, it's just so bad. I hate to say it like that. There's no tag division. And like we talk about it all the time, like it's not for lack of talent, it's for lack of just not booking it. Like there's no tag division. There's no the women's tag team division is a mess. The men's tag team division, yeah, we saw the World Tag Team Champions on this episode of Raw, but we didn't see them defend their title. We just saw them on the show. You know, the titles over on SmackDown, they might as well have been getting switched around like candy. And 2 years ago, the World Tag Team titles main evented WrestleMania one of the nights.
Yeah. So part of the issue that we're having is there's too much of a good thing. There's already, I mean, if you really took a look at everything right now, and again, I could be wrong even stating this, I think Thursday is the only day where there's not a major wrestling thing on TV outside of the weekend. So we're talking 80% of the work week has some form of wrestling on TV.
Well, Impact, TNA's on Thursdays.
Okay. 100% of the work week has some form of wrestling on TV.
And Collision's on Saturday.
Okay. I can't do maths, but 6 out of 7. And then
6 out of 7, not counting a pay-per-view.
And they're even on Saturdays now, but it used to be Sundays back when we were younger. It's already saturated. What are you going to do? Add another show? Because that's the only way. There's too much talent to effectively book. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of stuff gets lost in the shuffle. And right now, it's okay.
Those tag team titles.
It's never okay for something that's supposed to be, this is your champion. That's supposed to mean something. It's never okay for that to be forgotten. But I understand. I understand the theory of it's a shared title, and that could be the easiest one to kind of, hey, we did a thing.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
After that, we get Sami Zayn coming out and challenging Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Gunther turns it down. I will say this. I didn't see this coming. I did not see Sami going from the IC title to going after Gunther in the World Heavyweight title. I actually thought he was going to do more with Jey Uso. I thought as far as the Bloodline versus Bloodline thing goes, he was going to be very, very heavily worked into that.
I was hoping.
And he might still be.
What is it? I believe the rumor is that Hikuleo's on the way and he'll end up being the fourth.
Maybe. Who knows?
Have a worse, have another worse, taller Tongaloa. Perfect.
Is there such a thing?
I believe they're saying that they trademarked Talatanga, so I think that's it. I was hoping it was going to be Zillifatu, but you got to team him with Jacob, and then they can only really wrestle in the continental U.S. Those two aren't allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. They're not even allowed in Hawaii and Alaska.
Yeah, they're incredible though.
They're absolutely insane, but at the same time,
It's
yeah,
it.
I actually I'm not sure if Jacob's allowed even in the Panhandle of Florida at this point, anywhere near Alabama.
It's insane.
I
Oh
don't
my
know I
gosh.
don't know where you're from, boy. You don't look like me.
Yeah, have fun with all that. I think that's it. We're gonna have another story of a Samoan or a friggin' Tongan biting off somebody's nose.
Just murder, just murking everybody. This I think this is interesting. I like how Sammy kind of egged Gunther on a little bit. Like, hey, I'm the only one who's pinned you clean. That's gotta sit a little hurtful in you. Truthfully, there's at least since he's come to the main roster, Sammy is in fact the only guy who's pinned him clean. The only other guy that's being Gunther at all is Ilya.
Chad Gable had that count out win too.
But I mean, the only
Yeah,
pinfall victory that he has in WWE outside of
and it wasn't even, and that was in NXT. That
as
wasn't even.
NXT UK even,
Yeah, it's
which those matches were.
yeah. If anybody listening has not watched the matches between Gunther and Ilya Dragunov in NXT, please do yourself a favor. But also, there are times you're gonna look away because it's mean.
They
It's
hit
not.
each
It's
other
not a
so
pleasant.
hard. They hit each other so hard.
And rumor is they actually genuinely like each other. Which for those of you listening, that leads to a more dangerous in-ring combo. Because I'll tell you right now, Steve and I have been friends a long, long time. If we were working each other, we'd end up hitting each other significantly harder, and due to the trust, and it would be mean. And it's yeah. Do yourselves a favor if you haven't seen it. Please go watch Gunther Versilia. And there's actually some YouTube videos I've seen of other pros watching that match and watching like Randy Orton and Shawn Michaels and everybody looking at it and seeing them being like, Jesus. Like,
Stop doing that.
yeah, it's
Um,
the Simpsons thing. Just stop. He's
just
already dead.
I I think this is going to be a pretty quick blow off for the two of them. I don't think this is going to be a I don't think this is going to be a program. I think Zayn and Gunther is going to be like a one match type of thing.
I would like to see that, but I almost would like to see it circle back around to, let's just say, because Gunther's not going to hold this belt for less than 8 months. And even then, I think it's more likely he's going to cross the 12-month mark with it. I almost wouldn't mind seeing Sammy finally getting his world title by taking it off him, much the way he took that IC title. It would be a cool little, Trivial Pursuit question.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't know if I see. The problem is they're finally building up this world heavyweight championship to actually be something real again. And I think if they take it off and they put it on Sammy right now, it's just not gonna like. I think it needs to be like if they do it, if Gunther makes it past WrestleMania next year as the world heavyweight champion, and then Sammy takes it off him in like SummerSlam, I could see that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm going for. Like, I believe Gunther needs to walk in and out of Mania with that title and nothing against Seth Rollins, he did everything he could for that title, and he didn't do anything poorly for that title. But it's where it needs to be. Nothing against Damian Priest, but this title is where it needs to be.
I think so too. I think Gunther winning this belt is exactly what it needs to be. The main event of the show was Damian Priest and Jey Uso tagging up against the Judgment Day. Again, everything that happened with this was kind of what I thought. I liked the lead up with Rhea saying she might know a guy. All of that kind of. all that seems pretty. It was nice foreshadowing. I mean, you kind of knew who it was going to be. I like the backstage interaction between Priest and Oos. All around, this was again. There, nothing that happened on Raw didn't make sense. It wasn't silly. It wasn't phony. Everything kind of worked the way they wanted it to. But I don't have anything else to go along with that. Like I said, I thought this match was what it was going to be. We got some nice celebrations with Priest, Rhea, and Jey Uso at the end of it, where Priest even did his yeet.
The so I think and this is a word that I don't think it's used often enough when we're talking about folks doing program pro wrestling. I think for the first time in a while that Rhea and Damian are having some much needed fun.
I think so too.
And I think it's going to be something that's going to revitalize them, because both of them, at all times, Rhea Ripley's a contender for the title. Now, because of what Damian has pulled, at all times he's a contender for the world title. At all times, Jey Uso will lose for a title. So you can put him there. He's just never going to win it at this point. But
Not a singles one, at least.
Exactly. But they're having fun, and I just I feel bad for Buddy Matthews having to deal with the fact that his wife, who is probably the most fawned over female superstar in WWE, did the on-screen romance with Dominic, and it's going to look like they're either going to do it, or it's just going to be an implied on-screen romance between her and Jey Uso. And and Buddy Matthews gets to walk out with weird face paint, and Aleister Black looking like
and Brody
a druid.
I mean, he's winning, isn't he? I don't know.
Your guess is as good as mine. Edge isn't there.
All right, guys, but that's the week in wrestling. Like you said, please check out the Bash in Berlin, our Bash in Berlin review episode. Like you said, all that information will be in. And now for a little bit of fun, because
mail, motherfucker.
That's right. We have a mailbag question. It's been a while. We haven't been able to do this. There's been a lot of stuff going on in wrestling for 3 years, it feels like. Basically, since the start of Roman's reign, there's been a lot going on. So this question comes from a friend of mine named Citrone. And he asks, and I have to kind of paraphrase a little bit, can someone please explain Darby Allin to me? I just don't get him. I said I wanted to use this as the mailbag question because when he asked me it originally, I went into a little bit of a lengthy discussion about it. I'm gonna let Hound field this one a little bit.
Okay.
Because I'm hoping that all I'm doing is filling in the gaps on this one. I have some of my own opinions on Darby in general, but I don't dislike him. I also he's not my normal cup of tea.
Okay, so for all of you listeners, Steve knows me outside of here, and I have a lot of jokes I'd like to make that I will not for the sake of, let's just say, not getting Steve canceled.
Propriety, if you will.
So, Darby Allin. The easiest thing, I guess, for Darby Allin is there's a reason he's in AEW and nowhere else. Sure, he's not a great worker, and I'm sorry, but he's 6.5 pounds. And I don't care how tough you are at 6.5 pounds. Like, it's not believable. Like, I'm sorry, didn't he beat Brody King in a damn casket match? No.
Yeah, I think so.
No. It would
and then
be...
he lost to Jack Perry in a casting match.
I'm sorry, but it's for those of you who listening, and this is legitimate, I'm legitimately 6'8" and I weigh 390 pounds. If Darby Allin was coming after me, I'm just going to grab him and say no, and I'm going to hold him and I'm going to sit him down in the coffin and be like, now you stay there, and I'm going to close the lid and every time. I'm going to ground him like a father because I am a father, and I get it. Like his story, the legit truth about his uncle dying in that car crash, and all that stuff, and him being straight edge because of it, or and swearing off alcohol because of it. Yes, it's heartbreaking, and there is an entertainment value to it. But I'm sorry, I don't care how much of a beating you can take. I care if you can tell a story in that ring, and the story of I am this tough, which isn't believable. He can't be more than 5'10", and on a good day, soaking wet with a brick in his pocket, 140 pounds. It's like I've been to a place called Poly Lookout in Hawaii, where at all times there's like an 80-mile-an-hour wind. He would get launched off the damn cliff. Like, I'm sorry. It's like it's
so this is one of my favorite segments in AEW ever was in the very beginning, and it was when he won the TNT title and they had him go against Brian Cage, and they had a weigh in, and Brian Cage comes out there and he's in like workout gear, he's got like tearaway pants and stuff, and he gets on the scale and it goes up to 260 or whatever the hell Brian Cage is weighing nowadays at 5'10", monster.
He's 5'10" wide of muscle too.
Yes, and so they have Darby get on there, and Darby Allin is literally wearing the stuff he wears out to the ring. All the chains, the belt, everything, the Creed chain wallet holder. And and the guy taking the thing goes, and Mr. Allen weighs in at 162 pounds or whatever it is. And Taz grabs the mic. He goes, of course he does, when he's wearing all that shit on.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love
First
Taz
of all,
too.
let me just state that Taz is a national treasure as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, so I'm gonna like I said, I'm gonna try to fill in the blanks a little bit here. I say this all the time. I think Darby Allin has the Jeff Hardy appeal.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is about him, but he has it. You want to watch him.
No, I see what you're saying. Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy are rubbernecking. They're the car crash on the side of the road that's slowing all of us down. Going, what the hell is that? It's entertaining at times, but I don't care. It does nothing for me.
So here's the only thing that I will say: I've seen Darby have some good matches.
Oh yeah,
his match with Punk was amazing. I think when Darby gets reeled back in a little bit, he works very well, and he works his size very well. The one thing that I have said about Darby Allin is, and it's when you are a small wrestler, and for someone who spent the first half of his career being the small guy in the locker room, when you're a small wrestler, everything that you do has to be believable, because you don't have the option of it not being believable. I don't have he just said he's 6'8", 6'9". I don't have the option of being Hound and standing in the ring and my height and weight telling the story. I don't have that. So I have to go out there and do it the whole way through. And I'm not saying that big guys can't. What I'm saying is Rey Mysterio doesn't get to tell the story of being 17 inches bigger than the other guy. He's the guy who's 17 inches shorter, and he has to make what he does believable. Darby, when he first came into AEW, the thing that sold him, and the thing that sold him with Sting, was that what Darby did was super believable.
Yeah.
When he would, if you look, when he throws that dive, he does such a different version of that tope suicida, because I hate that move so much because everyone does it. Everyone. But if you look, when he does it, he throws his body at the guy. I legitimately think that he's trying to kill the guy with his own body.
Yeah.
And that is commendable, and that makes it very believable. Again, that gives him that it factor, that thing that, hey, maybe. But the problem is he's, since Sting retired, and the part of the issue with it is he didn't get the rub of being Sting's last match. He should have had Sting's last match. It should have just been him and Sting. They could have gotten 8 to 10 minutes, had a nice little match, ended it, and had Sting pass the baton on to him. And it would have been nice. He would have gotten such a good rub off of it. The problem is because they went from that hardcore match to the next hardcore match to the next hardcore match to the next hardcore match. That's all he is now. He's the guy who lights someone else on fire. He's the guy that can't scale Mount Everest because he keeps breaking a bone. He got hit by a bus and then still wrestled a week later. Like, stop doing this. He can, if he took it a bit more seriously and maybe didn't do some of the stunts, like I said, I think he would get. So I compared him to Jeff. I think he needs to be a little bit more Matt.
Yeah.
And I think that would bring people in more. I think, like I said, there's something about Darby Allin, whether it's just you wanting to turn your head for the car accident, but if you turn your head for the car accident and you realize that there's something more to watch over there, you're going to get into the accident too, because you're going to keep watching. The train wreck only keeps people there for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, look, while human beings are incredibly resilient, and in all of that, where it may have sounded like I was insulting Darby Allin, it's not meant to. The dude is tough as nails. He really is. He's tough as an old leather boot. But every time he does that, and that, like you mentioned, the tope suicida, yeah, it's more like a torpedo suicida, and I genuinely fear that he's not going to stand up because he paralyzed himself. And
It's actually one of my worries. And even like some of the stuff that he lets other people do to him. When they did the match, I forget when, but when they did the Team AEW versus the Elite thing, basically, and they hung him up. He was hung upside down for 10 minutes. You're not supposed to do that. And then they put Reebok pumps with thumbtacks on the bottom of them on, and super kicked him over and over. And you heard people say, like, the chant was literally, "Please cut down Darby."
Yeah, it's look. I mean, it's 2024, man, and I don't kink shame. You're into what you're into, but Darby just doesn't do it for me. I appreciate some of the matches he has. I've always been a fan of when the little guy can overcome the big guy. I've always been a fan of that. But again, it has to be believable. It has to be something like you're chopping down the tree over time.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, but if you attempt to chop down a tree by running at it as fast as you can and diving spine first into it, the tree's going to win and nobody's going to find you in the woods.
Like you ever hit a deer with your car? The deer always wins, even though the deer loses.
Unfortunately, yeah. If you remember my Wrangler, I was driving and one ran into my driver's side door while I was driving. Because they're smart animals.
Dumbass.
Don't you miss Jersey, Steve?
So much. But I think we've covered this question enough. Guys, this has been the show. Hound, thank you for coming out for your first episode. We are going to have him on more. Trust me. You get to hear all of our stupidity from now on. As always, Legion, we appreciate you. Thank you for listening to us. If you have any questions, please drop them in our comments, in our social medias, in our emails. All of our email information and social media information will be in the description. And other than that, Hound, you got anything else for us?
Just thank you very much for including me. And the Legion of the Lariat, I look forward to speaking with all of you. And yeah, this was a really good time. I appreciate it.
What we do, we have fun here, man. So, Legion, have a good night. And always remember, tuck your chin when you bump.